I wanted to come on here just to share a word of encouragement with someone that just feels like they can't catch a break. You feel like you can't breathe. You feel like it's always something and you're always going through. It just seems like the waves from the storm just keep overwhelming you. I've been reading the book of Genesis, and today I was meditating on chapter number 41, where it gives us the background of how Joseph was redeemed, right? He was honored. He was elevated to a place and position of authority. And so in chapter 41, we have where Pharaoh, who is king of Egypt, he has had two dreams where God is telling him that there's about to be a huge and major famine in the land, okay? For 7 years, they'll have plenty, and then for 7 years, there will be a lack. God has revealed this to Pharaoh in a dream. And so Pharaoh does not understand what the dreams mean in that moment, right? Verse 8, the next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by the dreams. So he called for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. When Pharaoh told them his dreams, not one of them could tell him what they meant, okay? Please pay attention to this for those that just feel like you're Joseph, okay? And I really encourage you to go back and meditate and read this chapter. Verse number 9, finally, the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. Today I have been reminded of my failure, he told Pharaoh. Some time ago, you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night, the chief baker and I each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was a young Hebrew man with us in the prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us what each of our dreams meant. And everything happened just as he had predicted. I was restored to my position as cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once, and he was quickly brought from prison, and he shaved and changed his clothes. He went in and stood before Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. 16 says, it is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied, but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. We're going to hop down to verse number 25, where Joseph is literally telling Pharaoh what the dreams mean, being led of God. It says, Joseph responded, both of Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. So for those, God is already revealing to you what's about to take place in the earth. In the natural earth, okay, there are a lot of things that are about to take place, so please be attentive to your dreams. Write them down and pray over them. Ask God to reveal to you what it means, what he is speaking, what your place is, how to position yourself, and how to prepare for what's to come, okay? The 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later, and the 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east wind, represent 7 years of famine. This will happen just as I have described it, for God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity through the land of Egypt. But afterward, there will be 7 years of famine so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. This famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. As for having 2 similar dreams, it means that these events have been decreed by God, and he will soon make them happen, okay? God has been giving revelation and clarity to his sons and his daughters through dreams. And if you are or have had a dream more than once, I'm talking about twice or several times. Now, it's important to test the spirit, because if you are not in God, and if you are not walking with God and in close relationship with God, the enemy can try to pervert your dreams. This is why it's so crucial, and especially in these end times, to be in relationship with God, to know what is from God and to know what is not from God. But I want to focus on what God is doing, okay? God is revealing things to his people, to his children in advance, so that we can prepare, so that we are not caught off guard, okay? Verse 33 says, therefore Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man and put him in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh should appoint supervisors over the land and let them collect 1/5 of all the crops during the 7 good years. Have them gather all the food produced in the good years that are just ahead and bring it to Pharaoh's storehouses. Store it away and guard it so there will be food in the cities. That way, there will be enough to eat when the 7 years of famine come to the land of Egypt. Otherwise, this famine will destroy the land. And so after Joseph gives this prediction and this revelation to Pharaoh, this is Pharaoh's response. Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, can we find anyone else like this man, so obviously filled with the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you are. People of God, hear me. For those that have been Joseph was sold into slavery by his own flesh and blood, by his own family, by his own brethren, his brothers. Okay, he was sown into slavery, ripped away from his father, ripped away from his loved ones, ripped away from all that he knew, into slavery. But what they did not know is that God's hand was heavy with Joseph. Even in the moments where I can imagine Joseph didn't feel like God was with him. He didn't feel like God was for him. He didn't feel like God had his best interests at heart. God continued to show himself faithful with Joseph. It tells us in the former chapters of Genesis, in specific chapter 39, verse 23, it says, the warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything Joseph did to succeed. Now, this was when Joseph was in prison because Pharaoh's wife wanted to sleep with Joseph, and Joseph declined her because of his honor, reverence, and respect for God. And so Pharaoh threw Joseph into prison. While Joseph was in this prison, this dark, this gloomy, this scary place, God still caused Joseph to find favor. So much that the warden, the head over the prison, put Joseph in charge of the prison mates. Where they do that at? God is going, oh my God, God is going to use you even in your most lowest places, even in the most trying moments. God is going to use you. He is going to use you in the midst of your naysayers, in the midst of those who try to accuse you and wrong you and guilt and shame you. God is going to still use you. Be not discouraged. Be not dismayed. God is still with you. I know it may not look like it. I know it may not feel like it. You may have to cry some tears to get through. You may have to vent to get through. You may have to just lay in bed to get through, but you will get through. Joseph is a witness that you will get through. When God is with you, there is no way that you can stay in a low place. There is no way that you cannot be promoted. There is no way that you cannot be elevated because God is with you. Joseph had to go through. He had to go through the prison. He had to go through the lies, the accusation. He had to go through the betrayal so that he could know how to handle the palace when God positioned him there. Verse 39 of chapter 41, it goes on to say, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you are. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on the throne, will have a rank higher than yours. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in fine linen clothing and hung a gold chain around his neck. Your linen is about to change. Your apparel, your dress, your position, my God, my God, my God. Your position is about to change. 43 goes on to say, then he, Pharaoh, had Joseph ride in the chariot reserved for his second in command, okay? Where God is about to shift you to is going to be a high-ranking position. Do not disqualify yourself, baby, because you done been through too much. You done sacrificed too much, withstood too much. You deserve to be in the seat that God is sitting you at. You deserve to be in the room that God is placing you in. You deserve to walk through the door that God is walking you through. You deserve to be on the land that God is giving to you. You deserve it. It doesn't matter about what they think. You deserve it. It doesn't matter about how they feel. You deserve it. God put you there. And when God puts you in a place, There is no devil in hell. There is nobody and nothing that can uproot what God has planted. Period. Don't let the enemy run you from your promotion. 43 goes on to say, and wherever Joseph went, the command was shouted, kneel down. So Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all Egypt. And Pharaoh said to him, I am Pharaoh, but no one will lift a hand or foot in the entire land of Egypt without your approval. Then Pharaoh gave Joseph a new Egyptian name, Zaphanath-Paneah. And this simply means God speaks and lives. I just prophesy and decree that the God who speaks is showing up for you. The God who lives is showing up for you. And he will bring a sword to annihilate your enemies. And he will bring his victory to establish its throne in your life. 45 goes on to say he also gave him a wife whose name was Asenath. She was a daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On. So Joseph took charge of the entire land of Egypt. He was 30 years old when he began serving in the court of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And when Joseph left Pharaoh's presence, he inspected the entire land of Egypt. I need someone to know that when the hand of God is on your life, age does not matter. King Josiah became king at the age of 8 years old. Joseph was put into a high-ranking position at the age of 30 years old. Seniority does not matter with God. God ain't looking for that. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God is looking at your heart. Jesus, my God, I hear you, Holy Spirit. God is putting many of his sons and daughters less than 30 years old, putting his sons and his daughters in high-ranking positions that they naturally don't qualify for, things that they didn't go to school for, things that they don't have the background in. God is saying, when you have me, I'm your decree. I'm your instructor. I will teach you. I will guide you. I will educate you along the way. You don't need all the extra stuff when you have me. Yes, it's important to get those things to grow and develop as an individual, but God is saying do not base your qualifications off of those things alone, because there are a lot of people who have masters, doctorate degrees, but they do not have my spirit, but they do not have my wisdom. They do not have my sight, my insight, or my foresight. They do not have my heart, my plan, my vision. You do. And I'm sending you. Now go. Woo! I am sending you. Now go. I am with you. I am your confidence. I am your assurance. You don't need a backup plan. Jesus. You have the entire heavens backing you up. My God. I wish y'all could see what God is showing me. You literally have so many angelic hosts backing you up. All you got to do is just move into position. My God. Don't let fear paralyze you. Don't let doubt paralyze you. Don't let worry paralyze you. Worry and fear of the unknown, fear of making a mistake, fear of not getting it right. God is like, I've already calculated all that. Child, stop tripping and just go. I got you. My God, whoever this word is for, your Joseph season of being in the prison is over. My God, it is coming to a swift end. And God is transitioning you into your season of being in the palace. You won't have a need or want of anything, because your Pharaoh, whatever your Pharaoh could look like, it could be your boss. It could be a spiritual leader. It can be a random person that just comes by and blesses you with what you have been standing in need of. Do not be surprised who God will use to bless you, to promote you, to elevate you. Because here in Genesis 41, we see, it tells us that Pharaoh was not serving God, the Almighty God, Yahweh. He was calling on magicians to get wisdom and revelation. He was calling on magicians to get understanding of these dreams. So that lets us know that he was not serving the Almighty God. He knew of God clearly, because when Joseph was speaking in verse 38, it says, so Pharaoh asked his officials, can we find anyone else like this man? So obviously filled with the Spirit of God. Pharaoh knew of God because he saw God in Joseph. God will send people your way that do not serve him, but they move in obedience to him, because God knows how to get a blessing through to you. God knows how to get a breakthrough to his sons and his daughters. And you will be the channel. You will be the avenue. You will be the street. You will be the storehouse that people need to connect with God. Woo, Jesus. You will be the storehouse that people need to connect with God. Woo! The things that God has stored up in you, you got to release it because somebody's life is dependent on it. You got to release it because somebody's breakthrough is dependent on it. You got to release it because somebody's peace is connected to it. You got to release it. I'm speaking a word to myself. You got to release it. Even if it hurts, release it. Even if you don't understand, release it. Even if you feel unworthy, release it. I bind and rebuke the spirit of unworthiness because God says that you are worthy. You are worthy. You are the storehouse that God has been putting so many visions in, so many dreams, so many words of life, so many words of encouragement. Now it's time for you to open up the doors of that storehouse so that others can come in and be fed. Verse 56 of chapter 41, it says, so with severe famine everywhere, this is after the famine has occurred in the land, Joseph opened up the storehouses and distributed grain to the Egyptians. For the famine was severe throughout the land of Egypt, and people from all around came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe throughout the land. This part of the word is so specific for one individual or a group of people that God is making your name known internationally, worldwide. The things that God has called you to do in the earth, the places that God has called for you to go, the things that God is ushering you into, you will be world renowned. Your name will be great, just as he made Abraham's name great. Do not give up in the prison. Allow God to keep shaping you and molding you and growing you and maturing you. It is not in vain. Nothing that occurs in our life is in vain. God causes all things to work for our good, for those who love God. If you love God and you know that you are called according to his purpose, everything that you have experienced or will ever experience has no choice but to work together for your good. When you serve God, when you live for God, when you walk with God, talk with God, commune with him, there is nothing that you can endure or go through that will not be worked together for your good. Be encouraged, people of God. Be encouraged. Your palace moment is on the rise, and for many, you're entering into it now. Embrace it. You deserve this place, this position, this seat, this table, this room, this blessing, this miracle, this grand gesture that God is ushering you into. You deserve it. God has been with you, and even now he is about to show you that he is still with you. He is a God that did not forget about you. When Joseph gave revelation to the two prison mates that were in jail with him but were released, they forgot about him. One was killed by Pharaoh, but the other was restored back to his rightful position as the chief cupbearer. But he forgot about Joseph. But even then, God still was working the plan together for Joseph's good. Because at the right time, Joseph's name was brought up. Joseph's name was presented. Joseph didn't have to present his name. God did it on his behalf. And that is what God is doing for you. You don't even have to fight this battle. You don't even have to make yourself known. God is going to do it for you. And then I want to end on this, going back to verse 50 of chapter 41. It says, during this time, before the first of the famine years, 2 sons were born to Joseph and his wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On. Joseph named his older son Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my troubles and everyone in my father's family. 52 says, Joseph named his second son Ephraim, for he said, God has made me fruitful in this land of my grief. What God is about to do in your life is going to cause you to forget about all the pain, all the trauma, all the heartache, all the suffering, all the labor, all the rejection, all of it. It is going to be so refreshing, so reviving, so redeeming to you that you're not even going to remember the bad and the ugly that happened, because there's going to be so much goodness that you'll be standing in. He is going to make you fruitful, even in the midst of grief, even in the midst of turmoil, even in the midst of your pain right now. God will still cause you to be fruitful, flourish. He will still cause you to thrive, to exceed, and to persevere. God, he alone will do this for you. Just keep serving, keep praying, keep fasting, keep trusting and believing God. He will do the rest. I pray whoever this was for, you receive it. You are encouraged by it, uplifted and empowered by the Spirit of the living God. I love you with the love of the Lord. And until we meet again, take care.